It was 13 days before Xmas, and an artificial snow was falling all across greater Los Angeles, part of the seasonal special effects.
Ooh, that's pretty good, but do you have another one?
As the first husky hoodlum stepped through the opening where the hotel room door once had been, Gomez tossed the sticky chair across the room at him.
Well, that's pretty good, but I feel like there's probably a better cold open there somewhere.
What I really need right now, the lurking detective said to himself, is a diversion.
Yeah, I like that. I don't think it's even possible to top that.
Caramba, said Gomez. That's none other than King Arthur II.
This is I Don't Even Own a Television. TekLab, the third book of the TekWar saga.
Robots don't have balls, realized Gomez.
1, 2, 3. There are books that are good, there are books that are bad. There's some books so fucking awful you wish you never had read them at all. 'Cause a novel can ruin your life. Hey buddy, I don't even own a television.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children around the world, to the thousands in attendance and the millions watching at home, this is I Don't Even Own a Television, a podcast about bad books. I'm J.W. Friedman.
I'm Chris Collision, and are we actually being watched?
I hope not, but the thousands in attendance are all in my mind.
I should really put some pants back on, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's time for me to get out of my robe and slide away from the gold-plated typewriter, get down to business.
Yeah, slide out of your, not sarong, what did he wear?
Kimonos.
A kimono, right, yeah. So this is a podcast where we call back to the time we read an Ian Fleming book
Yep.
and are still regretful and resentful in equal measure, which brings us to this little nugget.
Well, first off, who is the literary mind behind the book we're reading today?
Well, this J is a book listed by one, the only, William Shatner.
Here's a thing I found out about myself today.
Yeah.
My phone autocorrects Bill Shatner to bullshitter.
Whoa.
And it happened several times because I like to call him Bill.
Back in the day when he was kind of making his name for himself as a lad of his late 70s on Twitter, he would take up 4 characters in every tweet to, 5, to go space dash MBB for my best, Bill.
Never sign your tweets.
But he did sign his tweets.
Well,
and I'm going to mention this just at the top. Yes, I personally am aware that William Shatner shit the bed on Twitter last night and said a bunch of idiotic political things. No, I do not care that William Shatner shit the bed on Twitter last night and said a bunch of idiotic things. And no, I'm not going to mention it again in the course of this podcast or respond to anybody trying to talk to me about that. Because I do not care.
I won't either because I don't have Twitter and I have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm going to keep it that way.
Let's keep it that way.
William Shatner, in many ways, is America's grandpa. And sometimes grandpas say stupid things and you just have to kind of roll with it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to remember the good times.
He's even Canada's grandpa because he is straight out of Montreal, homie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Heck yeah.
Are he and Alex Trebek friends?
Probably.
Yeah.
They seem like they would be friends. They seem like they have a similar sort of avuncular confidence.
Yeah, but anyway, we're going to focus on the good times of the past. We're not going to think about the fact that he may actually be crazy now. And we're going to talk about this book of his from a little series of his called TekWar. Now, this was recommended to us quite a while ago, right? And we never got around to it.
Exactly. And if I'd had any idea the experience that we were going to be in for, I would have fast-tracked this. So, completely unknown emailer, probably before I actually joined the show. Thanks.
Yeah, it's an old wreck. But man, I'm glad we finally got around to it because it was, well, you'll see. I guess first we should talk about what's going on in this book. So we're going to try to do plot in 60 seconds. I think both of us might need to take a crack at it.
I think so.
Because I think we might be coming at the book from different perspectives too. So why don't you go ahead and get us started?
Nobody knows if you win it or not. You got 60 seconds to give them the plot. Plot is 60 seconds.
is 2020. So it's the future. And in the future, there's crime. In this case, a serial killer who's cutting men into quarters with a laser gun and leaving anti-war notes on the corpses. In comes Jake Cardigan, a 49-year-old divorced dad, and his super sassy Latino partner Gomez. Just Gomez.
Sid Gomez.
Great. It turns out that Jake's drug kingpin nemesis and Jake's ex-wife are in cahoots, trying to make a new super drug called Tek, in this case, Super Tek, with Jake's current girlfriend's mom or maybe father, I can't remember, while some idiots are trying to restore England's monarchy, while a social worker has built an android in the likeness of her brother to go murder people who supported the war that killed him, while Jake's son's girlfriend, who's Jake's nemesis's daughter, has gone missing in England. Luckily, nothing is an obstacle too big for a punch in the nose to overcome. Jake's nemesis dies. Everybody lives more or less happily ever after.
Okay, you're well over, but you did a really good job. I'm going to try to do it my way. I have no notes here, so I'm just going to freestyle. And as people know, this usually never works either.
All right, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
3, 2, 1, go!
Jake Cardigan is a guy with a funny name who's a PI. He used to be a cop. He's got a partner named Gomez, and they investigate a lot of crimes involving something called Tek that's sort of like a drug, but it's more like a machine you plug in your head. So they go over to Europe because some dude has been leaving notes on guys after he murders them that's like, "What up, I'm the unknown soldier." But they're like, maybe this isn't actually the unknown soldier, you know? Maybe it's a fake. So they get involved in a web of intrigue that involves seductress who runs afoul of our hero, as well as many pleasant androids with different accents. And at the end of the book, Jake runs into his son, who, by the way, had run away from boarding school earlier and ended up in a weird Charles Dickens mutant world. And everybody's okay at the end. Things are good. By the way, Jake's ex-wife is an asshole, and I think that's it.
That is great. Unfortunately, I don't think I, who read the book and tried to create my own plot in 60, even I do not understand much more about this book than I did before you said that.
No, it doesn't flow. And my synopsis was pretty rambling, but the narrative of this book is pretty rambling. And it was. Here's the secret, though, everyone. It was awesome.
Yeah. You said narrative. I would balk slightly at that because mostly, like, there's just events, and it's a very cinematic book in that it takes the sort of screenwriter's premise that you should have like one major plot and maybe two subplots pretty seriously.
Yeah, there's a B and a C plot throughout the whole thing.
And they're really clear about what's what. And like every scene, like every action scene is 3 action scenes because all 3 plots are having an action scene, and it cuts randomly in between all 3 of them. And the reason it's not a narrative is because none of the actions really lead to any other actions. The actions just sort of happen, and then there's another set of actions. And about halfway through the book, people start sitting Jake down and explaining the book to him. Like every 3 pages, this will happen, and you'll get like 2 sentences more of information. But Jake isn't doing anything. He's just like going from person to person, getting those things explained to him.
He's like a more pleasant Mickey Spillane character.
Oh, yeah.
Like he has a lot of the same kind of hard-boiled detective tropes, except he isn't a horrible asshole that you hate. He's just kind of dopey. Like I kept thinking of him as future Columbo in my mind. Like, very much so.
I think you've hit it. I called out his age particularly because I found it really refreshing for a book that is very obviously hard-boiled but set in the future. Mm-hmm. I found it so refreshing that the hero is literally described over and over again as 49.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was cute. And I'm sorry, I just couldn't not picture 50-year-old William Shatner in the role all the time.
Oh, man, that is... I mean, we're going to get into this more when we get into high points, but it's really hard to read this book without thinking of Bill Shatner behind every corner. Like,
all of the action scenes are action scenes you can easily imagine being pulled off by William Shatner in his 50s. So, like, the fight scenes consist of him, like, shoving a table into somebody and they fall down.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of, like, I pretended like I had slipped on some beer and then I grabbed my gun while I was on the ground.
Yeah, like, Gomez in particular, I think, is apparently in universe has a powerful right hand because he knocks, I think, 3, maybe 4 people out by grabbing them by the lapels and jabbing them in the chin 3 times. It's described very precisely, jabbing him in the chin 3 times.
Well, it could be. I mean, we don't know for sure because this is the 3rd book in the series, so we came in late. And this is a world where there are androids and cybernetically enhanced individuals. Mm-hmm. Maybe he has a robot arm.
If he had a robot arm, we would hear about that robot arm.
That's true, because there are robot arms in this book, and they're described in loving detail.
Frequently by the character who has it, who will say something as, seamless and in character as, I have a robot arm. I see that you're looking at my robot arm that I have. The reason I have a robot arm that's visible instead of a normal hidden robot arm is that I wanted a robot arm that would be visible.
Yeah, there's a lot. The dialogue style in this book is something else, and I think maybe we should get right into high points, low points, because I think we're going to have a lot to say on both sides about this. Oh, Lord.
Let's get high.
I want to just completely reiterate before we get into this, this is an enjoyable fucking book to read. It is stupid, but it is so much fun, and there's like nothing in it that upset me or made me cringe. It was just like hilariously bad. So like if there's, very frequently or infrequently do I say, maybe you should consider reading this book.
Right.
You should maybe consider reading this book before you listen to the rest of this if you're that type of person, because it's worth it. It's worth your time.
If you want basically space TJ Hooker.
Yes, totally. The Rockford Files, but on a meteor.
Then this is probably going to be pretty good for you.
Yeah, so on that note, high points, low points.
High points are high, and low points are low. High points, low points, get ready to go.
All right, let's get started here with some high points. Collision, why don't you lead us off?
Man, okay, I think my first high point, and this is hard to encapsulate, so forgive me. I liked just the vibe of it, which is sassy but also mellow. Mm-hmm. So like every character in this book is trying to crack wise all the time, but it's not really like a show-stopping crack wise. It's kind of a mellow, like TV style, decent zinger. You understand the character. You're enjoying their company. Like the villain and Jake sass each other for a while in this really low key way.
Yeah.
It's kind of low energy, to be honest, but it's just really enjoyable.
Yeah, this book does kind of have the vibe of like the before part of a Viagra commercial. It's written by an easygoing old fella that doesn't have a lot on his mind other than just like he wants to tell you a cool story.
Yeah, and like nobody's really upset about. I mean, like here's a good example of the kind of jokes that are in this movie. They meet a robot priest.
You just called it a movie.
Shit, book.
I mean, it says a lot about the book. I feel like that's not so much on you. That's on old Shatner.
Yeah, or the ghostwriter, but we don't have to touch that.
Well, let's just pretend. Yeah. Let's just pretend, and don't write in to be like this wasn't actually written by him. Don't spoil the magic.
Yeah, don't spoil the magic. We have Wikipedia too. Fuck off.
Yeah, we're gonna look it up as soon as we get off the air anyway, because that's what happens every time I say something and then realize I don't know what I'm talking about. Whoa, I said that out loud anyway.
But let me read the joke. Father Tim was a plump, jovial android dressed in a well-worn clerical suit. Bless my soul, if I had one, said Father Tim, scratching at his curly white hair. It does my old heart, if I had one of those either. Good to see you, my child.
kind of, what if Douglas Adams was less funny?
Yeah.
That's kind of what you're getting in his like lighthearted moments here, and it's not without its charm for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that rolls right into my first high point, which I think of this as being incredibly daddish. Like the dadliness of this book is off the charts.
Oh my God.
Like there's corny jokes all over the place, like you mentioned. I kind of mentioned the Columbo vibe earlier. It's got it all. You know, this is kind of like a I don't know. It's a Jimmy Buffett song turned into a novel about future detectives, and everything about it just has this pleasant backyard barbecue kind of vibe.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it beyond that. It's not making a lot of sense, I know, but trust me, there's something about the style that's so without pretension and without affectation, and it just like is like having a funny dad tell you a story about space detectives. You can't go wrong, man. So that's a pretty serious high point for me.
Yeah.
I guess to be fair though, we do have to do low points. So you want to go?
I think my first low point would be the exposition, quality and quantity of the book. Most of this book is, in fact, people explaining things to other people out loud and in words, things that should not be explained out loud and in words. So you'll get moments like, this is very early in the book. Ever since you joined the outfit, Jake, I've tried to accommodate your personal life. But, you know, the Cosmos Detective Agency isn't primarily dedicated to rehabilitating troubled ex-cops who are trying to rehabilitate themselves.
Thank you, Officer Exposition.
It's possible I'm not the right operative for this case, since I suspect the damn tech lords of being responsible for almost everything that goes wrong around the world. A good deal of the time, I suspect they've also corrupted my father. Things aren't getting any better now that you've been working with him again? Ever since what happened down in Mexico, well, I simply don't trust him completely anymore.
Oh my goodness.
Those are like back-to-back in chapter 3.
Yeah. There's a lot of, shall we say, not very naturalistic dialogue in this book, and a lot of characters just kind of like giving you a blurb from the back of the previous paperback, but like slightly condensed in conversational form. And if it's Gomez saying it with a couple Spanish words thrown in for flavor.
Gomez is so great because about every 4 sentences, whoever's writing this remembers that he's supposed to be a fiery Latin. So he'll just say caramba or madre.
Chihuahua sometimes. And if you wonder whether or not he calls every woman in the book Chiquita, wonder no more.
Does he?
Yes.
Oh, great.
But I guess,
or maybe the best sentence in the entire book. May I trudge along with you, amigo?
Yeah. Okay, so this goes right into my next low point, which is that, with the exception of Mr. Sid Gomez, every character in this book has the same voice. The women, the men, the cops, later on you meet what are supposed to be child delinquents that are also mutants and have named themselves after characters of Arthurian legend. So, you know, like Lancelot the gutter punk.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you roll back through that?
Yeah.
What were they again? They were mutant
teenagers.
Uh-huh.
Not ninjas.
Right. No, sadly.
Yeah. But yeah, mutant teenagers that live in Westminster Abbey and call themselves Lancelot. And even them, when they speak, they still sound like William Shatner. And Gomez sounds like William Shatner, like doing an SNL sketch where he's supposed to be a fiery Latin, quote unquote, because yes, that phrase is used by the character to self-describe.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much like he catches something out of the corner of his eye and then yells, Chihuahua.
Oh, my God. I think there's 1 or 2 Cockney characters whose, you know, things are spelled out. Like instead of saying aisle, it's spelled oil.
Yeah. And there's a couple H's in there.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. Those are mostly androids, though, because we haven't really got into the fact that there's androids in this that vary from like cartoon clunkety clunk robots like Conky on Pee-wee's Playhouse, like all the way to apparently ones that are indistinguishable from human beings.
I mean, most of them are indistinguishable unless they're specifically given something to distinguish them.
Yeah, I guess so. It's just never really made very clear, and I could never tell when they were talking about androids whether I was supposed to picture like Lost in Space or like Natasha Henstridge.
Right.
Yeah. Mimic, was that the movie?
No, you're thinking of Species.
Oh, okay, and she was an alien.
She was an alien.
Okay, wow, I'm way off. Okay, how about the how about the very attractive Terminator from that one movie?
Right,
there
Christiana
you go.
Loken, I believe, is who you're talking about.
That's what I meant to say the first time.
I just want to roll back and point out that I probably know more about the film career of Natasha Henstridge than Natasha Henstridge's agent, and I'm not ashamed of that.
Was she La Femme Nikita, or was that?
Oh, wildly no.
Okay, that was a different blonde.
I think you're thinking of
large eyes.
Maximum Ride, which was a second-tier Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
Oh, there's no such thing as a second-tier Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
Anywho.
Yeah, so rolling on, that was my first low point, so I guess we need another one from you.
This is a little bit of a cheap criticism because we're the geniuses who decided to jump straight to the third book of the series.
Well, to be fair, it does have one of the best names.
It's true.
Although we did skip number 2, which is named Tech Lords.
Right.
Which is pretty awesome. That sounds like they should be playing with Lords of Acid or something.
I would probably pay to see Tech Lords open for Lords of Acid. I would pay up to $22 for that.
So the books in the series, for those at home, are TekWar, Tech Lords, TekLab, Tech9.
Technical,
yeah,
which is the 5th book in the series. You'll get that later.
Yeah.
Yes, but much is not explained. I mean, for a book that is solidly 68% exposition, there's a lot that's never explained, like what kind of drug is tech? What effects does it have? Why should I give a shit?
I got the impression that tech was less of a drug and it was more of kind of a William Gibson ripoff because they kept talking about people being plugged into brain boxes.
Yeah, no, it's definitely that. It's definitely like, what if people had the effects of heroin in a shooting gallery, but it's because they were like playing video games like zombies, man.
It's a very original idea that has definitely not already been explored at this point by many movies and novels.
This book came out in 1991. Just a level set.
Yeah, I mean, Philip K. Dick existed in 1991.
The ground.
Neuromancer was 7 years old, I think.
The ground, she was well trod by this point. But still,
was the lawnmower man was out.
I'm just saying that they could have said some of that. Everything else was fucking said.
Yeah.
Why wasn't that said? So
I feel like he wanted to keep an air of mystique about tech and also maybe just didn't really understand it either.
I'm guessing they laid it out in the first book and then were like, well, what kind of asshole would start with book 3? Fuck that asshole. And I grew up in the Marvel Comics age where it was explicit that every issue is somebody's first issue. So you have to explain everything.
Yeah.
Which is why if you grew up reading X-Men comic books when I did, every fist fight would have somebody saying, Jean, as my girlfriend, I'm going to insist that I stand in front in this battle so that you're not in danger.
Well, that's good.
And she'd be like, Cyclops, thank you, but I don't consider myself your girlfriend because I have feelings for Wolverine, who is called Logan as well.
Yeah, the problem is that this book is one 300-page narrative, and it's still doing that by the end of the book, when you should kind of know the characters by now.
Without adding the clarity. But yeah, anyway, that was my low point. What is your last low point in this book that it should be, again, reiterated? We both, for some weird reason, kind of liked.
Well, I think my next low point, will illuminate that even more because I really couldn't think of another high-level complaint that I have about this book, really. So really, I'm just kind of nitpicking here in that I think that the one of the side plots that they have about the weird gang of TKs, tech kids, basically kids that were born mutated because their parents did too much tech. Whoa. And they live in Westminster Abbey, and they call themselves like Lancelot and Sal Silverhands and stuff like that. And like they have this weird little world, and you literally see it for 2 pages. And it was such a cool idea. I wanted to see these weird mutant Lost Boys, and you never get to meet them just beyond he shows up and then a bunch of bad guys come in and kill everyone.
Yeah, exactly. He gets taken hostage by them, and then off screen, the bad guys come in and kill everybody.
Yeah, and you don't see the encounter. It's just the next time you encounter this character, Dan, Jake's son, who has run away and gotten mixed up in some shit in pursuit of his, what's the word I'm looking for here? Unrequited love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His paramour,
yeah,
the girl from Evanescence.
Yes. Either way, you know, like he gets kidnapped by these creepy TKs in their weird society, and then off screen it gets raided. He gets taken somewhere else, and you never really hear about it again. Despite the fact that one of them can fly, I mean, it just seems so interesting, and it's abandoned so quickly. So
it is the kind of thing where you're like, yes, that please, more of that. And the book kind of forgets to give you more of that, which is not great.
No, but, you know, I think it's time to roll it back around to some more high points, and I just want to start with this one. This has genuinely likable characters, even if they do all talk like a version of Bill Shatner. And maybe I'm just biased from watching a lot of Star Trek when I was a kid. But like every character in this book, I enjoyed reading about their goings on. There was nobody in it where I was like, oh, this guy's supposed to be cool, but he's such an asshole. It's like everybody's just kind of dopey and friendly. And like, I don't know. I liked that for a change.
I mean, your hard-boiled protagonist, Jake Cardigan, several times before he goes to bed, remembers to call home and have a conversation with his girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Because he's traveling for the road.
Yeah.
You know, he's traveling for work.
And he's not like lying to her and being like, oh, I'm in a meeting, but I'm actually out doing like all this serious manly shit. He's like, yep, I'm over here on a case. I'm doing blah, blah, blah. It's like... he is a normal guy. It's not like in our age of like Breaking Bads and whatnot. It's kind of refreshing to like have a character who is a hero in a book without any kind of anti-hero edge at all, beyond the fact that he doesn't follow the rules, but in the most benign way possible.
He's also a hero who's not what you would call overpowering.
No, not at all. Like as you mentioned before, his fight scenes as pictured by a 60-year-old man thinking, if they make a movie, I could play this guy.
Yeah. They're attainable levels of violence.
Yeah, there's a couple like very basic judo throws. Mm-hmm. There's a scene where a desk is used as an offensive weapon and not in like a crazy hit someone over the head with it, like slid back against the wall to pinch a guy between it.
Definitely tricks a couple guys to get the drop on him with his gun.
Yeah.
You know.
Quite a few of his plans involve spilling drinks.
Yeah. This is, again, a slightly weird high point, but the prose in this book, while not exactly perfect, was occasionally extraordinarily enjoyable. So I'm just going to give you a couple tastes of what I thought was the best. Blood was spurting out of the deep rut in his chest. He dropped to his knees, and drops of blood went spattering all around him on the metallic floor. He tried to speak, but blood came out of his mouth instead of words.
Blood?
So there was blood then.
Yeah, I think there was some blood.
There's a sassy android we haven't talked much about, and somebody's like, whoa, how did you just do what you just did? And the android's line is... X-ray vision, schmuck.
What is the android's name?
Oh, shit. Is it Sidebar?
It's Sidebar, which just instantly made me think of a Transformer, but like a court-themed Transformer. Like some kind of like 1980s toy that was a robot that turned into a gavel named Sidebar. He'd be an Autobot for sure.
Hello, my friend. Quiet conversation.
Think of the one-liners, man. You know, like after he defeated a Decepticon, he could be like, "Court's adjourned."
Oh my god, so many so many amazing lines, though, even real ones. Without
I hold you in contempt.
what?
Yo, get at me, Sony. Let's do this thing.
Yeah, let's get it on.
You know John Cena is going to be in the next Transformers movie, by the way.
Don't care. Sorry.
All right, I'm just killing time because you're flipping pages. So.
Yeah, no, sorry. I can't quite find all of them, but there's a moment where, like, Gomez, the semi-hard-boiled sidekick who is every single time he gets back to the hotel, he's described as having a bottle of ale in his hand.
Yes.
It's very relatable. At some point early in the book, he talks to somebody and drops both a mayhap and an erstwhile
Yes,
into
that
the
is true.
conversation.
I remember noticing that.
And I can't find it now, but I was just like, wait, what the fuck?
I wanted to mention how our hero Jake Cardigan expresses his emotions because once again, I feel like I got some real Bill Shatner vibes here. When he's on a vid call to his wife.
Oh, a vid call.
She says, or his girlfriend, sorry, not his ex-wife. His girlfriend says, by the way, on an entirely different topic, I miss you. And his reply is, I have similar feelings about you.
Which, like, okay, that's exactly what I meant about the kind of, like, mellow zingers.
Exactly.
Like, 'cause, like, if you imagine William Shatner saying that with, like, full Shatner confidence and kind of, like, winks, and he's like, I'm not going to really talk about my feelings because what's more charming than me only alluding to my feelings? You're like, oh, yeah, that's why I'm watching this show. I'll sit through a Pepsodent commercial for this.
Totally. Maybe buy some collectible plates, perhaps.
Fuck yeah.
I also, this is one of my favorite moments, just since you were talking about the prose earlier. This is Gomez and one of his witty retorts here. The remaining goon noticed Gomez through beer-blurred eyes and grabbed for his laser gun. Nope. Gomez shot him. And nope is in quotes. That's Gomez saying that. That's his witty rejoinder.
I mean, it's really, it's not challenging.
No.
But it's enjoyable. With that, maybe it's time to take a break, or do we want to go deeper into some of the other pleasures? Oh my God, I'm sorry. I do. I want to go deeper into some of the other pleasures.
Unknown pleasures, perhaps?
Extremely known pleasures, because I made a list of them. So Jay, when is this book set?
This book is set in 2125.
Something like that.
Somewhere around the time when those ladies from Cleopatra 2125 were living up on the space station on USA Up All Night.
I don't remember that.
Okay, maybe I shouldn't have been watching that show.
It's all right.
Oh, that was 2525.
Oh.
And it was based on that disco song, and then they made a whole like weird little sci-fi series about it that was mostly about like scantily clad Barbarella type women in the future where women rule. It was a pretty good show.
Okay.
You know, I'm going to give it credit for that.
All right.
Yep.
But this also, like that, is set in the future. And how can you tell it's set in the future?
Because everything has a really silly name.
Exactly. Everything is new. And I really enjoyed that because everything in this book could be done with dragnet levels of technology. They drive cars, they take airplanes, they talk on the phone.
Yeah.
Except they don't drive cars. They drive sky cars.
Yes.
There's also sky vans and sky cabs.
Yeah. It's very much
So
got...
it's everything you already know about, but with sky in front of it.
It's got that Jetsons vibe where they just put the word space in front of everything to make it sound like the future.
You know, Jay, if you really think about it, the Jetsons and the Flintstones are less about the future and the past and more about the consumer culture of the late 50s and early 60s.
Let me off of this crazy thing.
This will be the last episode because Jay's mind just exploded and is currently leaking out of every hole in his head.
It is. We're going to need Rosie to clean it up.
Yeah, like somebody drinks coffee for about 4 pages in one scene. Are they drinking coffee out of a mug? No, it's a plasma.
Everything that's plastic is referred to a plas something like. I made an exhaustive list. Should we save it for what is your fave?
We should save it for what is your fave.
Okay, well, stick around for the next segment for that. But yeah.
Like, are there ramps? Fuck you, asshole. There are ped ramps.
Ped ramps. Yeah, it's true.
Like, ever since there were ramps, people have looked at that and been like, oh, I could walk up that.
Yeah.
But no, in the future, there's ped ramps. It really reminded me, Futurama had this running gag, and they actually called it out in commentary, that you could tell it was the future because things would be exactly what they were in like our world, except they would be floating. So there's like a bed. It's the same height as a bed. It's the same shape as the bed. It's in the same place as a bed. It just doesn't have legs. It's hovering.
Yeah, I mean, there's that whole, people could complain, and it's very popular with the people our age, like, I was promised a floating car. Like, would a floating car really be that much better?
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, you assholes can't drive anyway. You don't need a third fucking dimension.
That's a very good point. I would be scared to death to drive on 101 if everyone's car did not have tires.
Jesus.
It's a little local flavor for our NorCal folks, and I think on that note, we should probably take a break.
Slip into your Jake Cardigan and join us on the other side of the song.
Yep. Here comes a good one.
Vanessa, keep a Tech 9 and my dresser. Lyrical professor, keep you under pressure. Mind like a computer, the inserter. Paragraphs of murder, the nightclub flirter. This is Nas, kid, you know how it runs. I'm waving automatic guns at nuns. Sticking up the preachers in the church. I'm a stone crook, serial killer who works by the phone book. For you, I got a lot to shoot songs in here. My rhymes are hotter than a prostitute.
Enter the realm of the spin. I got a fidget spinner, everyone, and I'm practicing some sick tricks. So on the next podcast, I'm going to do a bunch of really sick fidget spinner tricks, and Collision's going to narrate them to you. So stick around for that.
This is not the no spin zone.
It's the all spin zone on like all 10 fingers, like Edward Fidget Hands.
We're here with the doctor of spin himself, J.W. Friedman.
Well, when I first got into fidget spinners, it was just because it felt pretty good, but then I started to realize
intense.
Then I started to realize it's like I could provide something to the world with these tricks and just kind of, like show people that there's more to it than just like, spinning a thing in your hand. You can be creative. I think of it as an art form. Anyway, sorry. We're talking about TekLab.
Entire podcast programs are being dragged to the recycle bin. Computers are being given to unloved nephews.
Yeah.
iTunes is being uninstalled across the land.
Ooh, maybe we'll break Apple through the power of fidget spinner related humor. All right, let's go ahead and get into it, and let's play some games. Let's start off with a dramatic reading.
Dramatic readings. We're gonna make it sound recorded. Dramatic readings. Yeah, I got some words for you.
All right, dramatic readings. We take parts of the book and read them to you, and try really hard not to do the Bill Shatner voice. Do have to warn you ahead of time, a character in this is French, I believe, of the Cajun persuasion.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to do my incredibly accurate French accent. So please know that if it sounds weird to you, it's just because you're uncultured. So don't write in to tell me that it's bad.
He did not want to do this, but I convinced him that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Or the one.
So if you remember The Frugal Gourmet on PBS, that's pretty much my frame of reference. So let's roll right into it here, but here we go. You seem uneasy tonight, mentioned Jack, leaning against the wall. Supervising 5 jazz attractions, each of which has to be perfect, is stressful. He jabbed at a button on a control board at his right. I'll have to dub in a new trumpet for the Ellington aggregation. Much more nervous than the last time we met. That was years ago, mon ami. Reminded the small, narrow man, glancing briefly over his shoulder at Jake. Keep in mind, too, that they call me Pepe Nerveau. That is not obviously my true name. No, it's a nickname bestowed on me because of the fact that I'm always very nervous. Nervous all the time, in fact. Ah, what's this? He jumped up, gesturing unhappily at a row of monitor screens. Bud Powell's fallen off his piano bench. I'm wondering, Pepe, said Jake, Maybe you're too busy to do business with me tonight. Wait. He made a quick shaky stay put gesture with one hand while fooling with dials, buttons, switches. Bon, he's back in place and playing Un Poco Loco. Sighing, Pepe Nervo sank deeper into his chair. Yeah. I just lost all the rest of the listeners that were still listening.
Pepe Nervo.
Yeah, Pepe Nervo, ladies and gentlemen. Kind of sounds like Triumph the Comic Insult Dog. Mon ami.
Man, fuck, why do I go second? I can't follow that.
I'm sure you can. Here's a tip. Don't do a horribly offensive accent and you'll be on the right track.
I don't know, man. What is offensive?
I don't know.
I am just here on the 13th arrondissement of France.
I had a boss once who he was French, and he would always tell me that things were due at the end of the month.
Whoa.
It was pretty awesome.
Dude, were you like, Zut alors?
Yeah, it was pretty great.
Mon Dieu.
I did action script programming at the time, so he would call me Mr. Flash.
I just took off my little sailor shirt and trudged away sadly.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Punching Tintin.
It's a hard life out here. Anyway, dramatic reading.
I got one. And longtime listeners, you know where I was going to go with this. And new listeners, well, prepare to get sexy with Jake Cardigan.
I don't even own a television after dark.
How is it that we've been talking about this for like half an hour and we have not made fun of the name Jake Cardigan?
It's pretty awesome. Jake Cardigan is like the name of a very bad frat-themed rapper.
Oh my God. Now like Danny Brown is going to do an album as Jake Cardigan.
I don't know. I was thinking of like a Marky Mark type guy from like Boston or something. And he'd be like, just like, me and the boys, we tap the kegs. Like that kind of shit.
Jake exactly. Cardigan. But I'm just saying it would only be listenable if an actually good rapper
I see.
Put it on as a persona for one kind of... You know, it would be like his Chris Gaines.
Yeah, like a Handsome Boy modeling school or a Mike Ladd Infesticons type project.
Right.
That just got me so much cred, motherfuckers. All right, anyway. Sorry.
Jake stepped out of the Parisian night and into the Grand Illusion Bordello. From the rainy ped ramp into the sultry simulated formal gardens. Paths of spotless white gravel crisscrossed what appeared to be acres of well-cropped bright green grass. The gravel crunched underfoot as Jake made his way over to her. "Evening," he said when he reached the arbor. "Good evening, sir," she said, smiling pleasantly. "My name is Onita, and I'm your receptionist for tonight here at the world-famous Grand Illusion. Before we proceed with satisfying your every sexual need, I am obliged by French law to inform you that, while I am a living, breathing human being, none of the hookers whom you'll encounter during your enjoyable stay here are real. Some are state-of-the-art androids, while others are simulated directly in your brain using completely legal brainstem techniques. While we insist on a simple, painless robo-physical exam for each and every customer, we accept no legal or moral responsibility for any subsequent physical or mental mishap that may befall you during or after you've indulged your passions at our establishment. If you have heard and thoroughly comprehended all this, please signify by saying yes." "Yeah, but what I actually..." "The next matter to settle, sir, is how you intend to pay for your evening's pleasures," continued the young woman. "While we prefer Banks notes in advance, we do honor World Card Disney charge and..." "Onita, I'm not a customer."
Man, that was sexy as hell.
I mean, I don't think I've ever read a book that actually walked you through the terms and conditions acceptance screen in real time before.
While you were reading that, I was writing it down so I didn't forget to mention it, but This is exactly what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about how daddish this book is. Because this is ostensibly a hot scene of our detective going undercover in a brothel, and he's going to get busy. But like what he describes to you is first a very detailed depiction of how the landscaping. Yep, that's a dad thing. And then a contract in detail.
Yeah.
Like
the book kind of runs out of steam right after that because Onita, after she gets his name and is looking at him, says, "Are you a celebrity?" Like, she's asking someone who she is in visual proximity of and whose name she knows if they are in fact famous.
Well,
it seems like if you're looking at someone whose name you know, you have two really good pieces of information as to whether or not they're famous.
Yeah, that's true. Although we didn't read the first two books, so he could have been a rock star in either one of them, like Lestat the Vampire.
Right, but then wouldn't she say, "Aren't you the famous person blah, who I've heard of?"
I guess you're probably right.
She doesn't say, "Are you someone important who could be unknown?" She literally asks them, like, "Are you well known?" Anyway.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's
I'm
a strange
nitpicking.
turn of a phrase, for
It is.
sure.
It is.
For sure. Okay, let's roll on. Let's do another game here. Let's do a What is Your Fave?
What is your fave? What is your fave? When you're presented with a list of options, what is your fave?
All right, so what is your fave? We're digging deep into this book. We're going to talk about some of the intricacies of it and the things that really stood out to us. So we mentioned earlier, you especially, Collision, that a lot of what passes for world building in this book is just kind of putting two words together and maybe replacing an S with a Z.
And replacing a normal object with a made-up word that is two words jammed together, almost always of two syllables.
Yeah. And there are a lot of these. Like, for example, like some really common ones is no one has a laser gun. They have a las gun or a laser gun.
Right.
Like, there's not plexiglass. There's plasglass.
Right. Yeah.
You know, things like that.
Paneling in this universe is not wood. It's
Neo would.
Exactly.
Yeah. And he definitely would, by the way. He took the red pill. Am I right, fellas?
Damn.
Oh, I hate that joke. Anyway. It's you can't even talk about that shit anymore. It's just taken on such sinister undertones.
Yeah, I mean, after that second and third movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's very true. Who wants to think about that weird-ass rave orgy? Okay, well.
I just raised my hand.
Yeah, a hand
silently.
went up. By the way, let me do the cliche. A podcast is an audio medium. No one at home saw that.
Thank God.
But one of us raised our hand. I won't say who it was.
It was me.
It's sort of like in the Rush song with the rapping, how they turn the light off during the show so you can't figure out which one it is. It's Alex.
Actually, I think that's just what Getty's speaking voice sounds like now. But we'll get to that in our other podcast a different time.
Yeah, by the way, leave that thing alone. Look it up. We talk about Rush a lot. It's really fun.
We talk about Rush more on that podcast than on this one. Yes.
It's possible. Okay, so
So this is unprecedented. I think this is the first time we've ever independently come up with the same what is your fave.
yeah. So I think both of us kind of had lists. So we were going to come in and do I'm going to read a list and you pick your favorite one. But I think what will be better about this is if we can just each pick one and explain why we like it.
Yeah.
So why don't you start us off, Collision?
This is really fucking difficult. There is a long list. Many of them are great. I'm going to let myself off the hook because my dramatic reading happened to contain my second favorite, which was Robo-Physical. Just the most pointless neologism I've ever read, and I love it very dearly.
And the best single by Olivia Newton, Cyberjohn.
Shit, no, we're gonna have to work on this. Otherwise, we're gonna get like 4 tweets of like, how could you not see Olivia Newton?
Tron.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah,
Or,
I got it.
you know, but you know what, motherfucker? I can convert newtons to joules, so go fuck yourself.
And I ride a fancy ass motorbike with light fucking laser trails coming out from behind it that will kill you if you touch them.
I sleep in a race car. Where do you sleep?
A cool waterbed. Anyway, rolling on here.
So anyway, my actual favorite is there's a set piece that we haven't talked about where they check into a fancy hotel that used to be something else here in Gay Paris. And it turns out that the hotel they're checking into is the Louvre.
Oh, man, that's wacky.
And who takes their luggage? A bellbot.
In a beret.
It's a bellbot.
It's a bellbot.
That's just so fun to say.
Bellbot is amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
And also he's a bumbler. He's like a fucking Peter Sellers movie, Bellbot.
Yeah, he definitely says like whatever the French version of like hello, hello, hello.
Yeah. There's a lot of oui, monsieur kind of, yeah.
I'm a Frenchman. I am. Anyway, what was your favorite weird ass made up bullshit word?
This one's easy for me because in this book, we're treated to a future where most people are doing drugs that involve plugging a box into their head and going into space.
I knew this was going to be it.
However, it's still a world where people apparently smoke marijuana or something close to it, but they don't smoke joints. They smoke pot cigs, all one word. And the first time I read it, I was like, what the fuck is a pot cig? And then later on it says, the pungent odor of a pot cig was in the air. And I was like, oh shit, he's talking about weed. So that resonated with me.
It was also your favorite character from Happy Robot Days.
Yeah, pot cig. Yeah. It's me, pot cig the putterer.
Just a few of the many delightful words. I should jump back when I mentioned world bucks a minute ago in my dramatic reading. That was spelled in a trademarkable way with a U.
Yeah.
And what was the other one? Oh, bricks and bucks are both with X's. So this is a very Mountain Dew book. They're
issued from Banks, B-A-N-X, which kept making me think of Spanx every time it was mentioned. And so that was entertaining.
Yeah, space Spanx of some kind, which is probably the 5th or 7th book or something.
The names, they just keep getting weirder and weirder as the series goes on. But
speaking of weirder as it goes on, we should play some more intriguing games. And Jay, I've got one for you. Okay. And it's something we don't get to play that often. So I'm stoked about this. This is a little thing called What Would They Do?
Sometimes the tensions are hard to define, and others the clear as day. So tell me, what would they do?
I like that inflection. That was Shatnerian almost.
Except I really should have sunk into it more. Like, what would they do?
That was a good pregnant pause.
So we haven't really laid this out. Gomez is kind of a wisecracking, sassy, hot-blooded type. And if you think I'm being racist, I am, but I'm also directly quoting him describing himself.
Yes.
And there's a lady, not a lady bot, but
a lady.
Who is sometimes called Princess in an in-joke that is not explained because we jumped into book 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Her name's Natalie, and she's like a wisecracking, sassy, hard-charging reporter type. Like very screwball comedy.
She is April O'Neil, but continue.
Oh, she is April O'Neil. Except she speaks exclusively in paragraphs. She's like one of those really fast-talking movie characters.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And she's got her own sidekick, the aforementioned Sidebar, the robot who calls people schmuck.
Yeah.
In what I'm pretty sure is the only sentence in written English containing the words X-ray and schmuck.
Yeah, you might be right.
And she has the hots for Gomez, but it's the kind of hots that's only expressed in negging.
Oh, yeah, she's mean as hell to him.
Yeah, and it's always like, I just can't see why I'm attracted to such a bumbling incompetent as you, sweet cheeks. Like that's like 40 pages of this book or that. So my question for you, Jay, what would Natalie do if Gomez was like, yeah, okay, here I am, reciprocating your affection, gringa?
I don't think she'd go through with it because secretly I think she carries a torch for Sidebar.
What? He's a robot.
Yeah, but he's so charming and, he's streetwise and tough. And plus she knows Gomez is going to be gone soon. Sidebar's still going to be there. And sometimes the love you're looking for was right in front of you all along.
Whoa.
Cue some Breakfast Club music.
Beep, 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 beep. Don't you download without me.
Ooh, boy. I'm putting all the music behind that.
People are now writing Apple angry at them for inventing the idea of radio shows you could listen to asynchronously.
20 years from now, future robots are being sent back in time to kill our mothers before we're born.
Yeah, I was going to ask a follow-up about what Sidebar would do if Gomez reciprocated Natalie's affections, but I think we now know that what he would do is get his robot loving on.
I think that's exactly it. Because, I think there's a lot of tension between Natalie and Sidebar.
He definitely hates Gomez even more than Natalie pretends to. So I think you're onto something there.
Yeah, if nothing else, Sidebar's jealous. Maybe it's a one-way thing, but Sidebar's having none of it, and he's always around.
Or maybe Sidebar is like, he's not right for you, Natalie, because he's right for me.
That's possible.
Beep, boop.
Or maybe his name's Sidebar because he likes to watch.
Whoa. Okay, that is creepier than anything that's in this book. So definitely applaud you there. Should we try a cast the movie just because it's so obvious?
Every character is Bill Shatner.
Nice.
In a different costume.
Okay, how much would you pay for like a rock opera that's pretty much just monologues from this with like William Shatner's daughter's friend's band doing him a favor by playing whatever it is they like to play?
Everything sounds vaguely like Iron Man, but a little mellower.
Yeah.
I would be into that for sure.
I would not pay $7.99 for that. I would pay $6.99 for that.
Yeah. I'd sit right around there too, but I'd definitely buy the cassette.
Oh, fuck yeah. No, I mean, you got to. You don't want to just download it. You need the artifact. I have a secondary what is your fave?
Okay.
If you'll indulge me?
Yeah, let's run it back. Maybe I'll make a different version of the song here to play.
Whoa.
What is your fave again? What is your fave again? Yeah, we're doing it twice cause we're out of ideas. What is your fave again?
All right, yeah. So we got another one. What's up?
We have not talked near enough about the veritable plethora, the panoply, the galaxy of secondary characters in this book that have each and every single one of them exactly 2 character traits.
Ooh, can I say one too? Myriad.
Yes.
I got jealous. You were like on a synonym spree, and I was like, ooh, I can help.
Yeah. Teamwork makes the dream work.
It's true.
So I'm going to read a few characters and their secondary traits and ask you, when presented with this list of options, what is your fave?
Okay.
All right. Again, your fave secondary character with exactly 2 character traits.
All right.
Gomez, who's a sassy Latin. Mm-hmm. Dan, Jake's son, who is like his dad. Nancy, Jake's girlfriend, and Jake's nemesis' daughter. Nat, who talks a lot and wants to bone Gomez. Sidebar, who is mean and a robot. Silverhand Sally, who is a gang leader with a robot arm. Kate, who is Jake's ex and Jake's nemesis' lover. Madame Lulu, who's a madam at a brothel and occasional friend of Jake. Marge, or maybe Mary with a J, it's not clear, who's a social worker and android revenge Revenge Android builder. Or, I don't know, one of the telekinetic kids who are also...
Lancelot is one of them.
Who are also Oliver Twist knockoffs.
All right, so...
Or somebody I've forgotten, like Timepiece or TikTok or whatever the fuck his name is.
His name is Time Check for some reason. And he's a Chinese fella that talks like he's in a movie from the 1950s.
And is obsessed with time.
Yep.
Fuck, that's 3 character traits. Format busted.
Man, yeah. Well, I mean, he's drawn with much more nuance than a lot of these characters. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious where I'm going with this. If you've been listening to the show up until this point, it's fucking Sidecar. Sidebar. Sorry, I got his name wrong. I love him so much I fucked up his name. But no, it's Sidebar for sure because I kept thinking of him as Bender, basically.
Oh, yeah.
So
definitely.
I couldn't not love him. And yeah, plus he's a robot. And so the fact that he speaks robotically and over-explains everything almost makes sense, unlike most of the human characters in this book.
I'll give you that. I'm 1,000% Gomez. I mean, anybody who says lines like, "Have you spotted any goons or louts hereabouts?"
It's great, but he does have kind of an unfortunate Speedy Gonzalez quality at times to his dialogue. But then I think back about how, like, William Shatner was all about Esperanto.
Ooh.
And, you know, like, he speaks Spanish. So I feel like a lot of that was kind of part of the Shatner brand at that point in time, too.
Yeah.
So it definitely doesn't feel mean-spirited, but it feels very silly. Like, it's hard not to get, like, an Eric Estrada vibe out of your head, for sure.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It is so obviously meant as an Eric Estrada, like late Eric Estrada vehicle.
Yeah.
You know? Just
like Cool Cat Saves the Kids.
Yeah.
Subscribe to our Patreon at $5 if you want to hear more.
If you want to hear more about Cool Cat Saving the Kids, Eric Estrada suffering bravely when someone's standing in front of his cue cards. Eric Estrada confronted with a monstrous mascot costume.
Hey, there he is.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, yeah. So I guess that's about it, right, for games?
I think that's it. Unless we want to do just a random Russian roulette and show these people what they're really in for.
Let's do one.
All right.
Russian roulette, Russian roulette, Russian roulette, not actually Russian.
All right, so Russian roulette, normally we flip through the book and we stop randomly. This time we generated random numbers, and for the people at home who are worried about whether or not this shit is on the level or truly random,
How random is it?
We have gotten emails about this. I decided I was going to use random.org, which is a website that's existed for a long time, which is a random number generator that's seeded by the sound of traffic and the tides and waves from 15 different sound sources aggregated across the globe to create true randomness. So you can rest assured this is not bullshit. These numbers are literally random.
Whereas I run randomorg.org, which is your best site for recaptioned bullshit memes and screen caps from cartoons you vaguely remember.
Hey.
That's randomorg.org.
Reboot was pretty cool. What if it was about nihilism? Anyway, so we both got some numbers here.
Yep.
I believe you had 2142 is the location.
It's true, and it's too good. I'm just going to read you the entire screen page. We'd best head over to the place, suggested Jake. Sally touched Marge's arm with her real fingers. Maybe, she said quietly, sometime soon we can talk about my getting out of here. Marge smiled. That's a good idea. The thing is, said Sally forlornly, I don't want to stay here, and I can't go home. Smash cut. Bundled up in his new thermo coat, Gomez made his solo way along the late-night Avenue Victor Hugo. He was striding briskly to prevent his blood from turning to ice in his veins. The night was bleak and bitterly cold. When the chilled detective tried to whistle a seasonal tune, his breath came out as wispy mist. Remind me, he said to himself, to spend next Xmas someplace in the tropics. The robot doorman in front of the Hotel Hernani had apparently frozen earlier in the evening. 2 uniformed bellbots were pouring steaming hot water over him from silver teapots. 3 doors past the hotel was the cowboy kitchen. It ordered according to the light sign, one word. That's such a representative fucking page of this book.
Well, I got location 2881, which has some high stakes here. Natalie awakened. Directly in front of her, taking up nearly one entire wall of the large room she found herself in, was a vast animated painting of the original King Arthur. The handsome bearded monarch was sitting at his round table with a sampling of his knights. The reporter,
you don't hear King Arthur's Knights sampled anymore because the laws changed.
It's true, yeah.
And the original owners just don't give clearance anymore.
Yeah, you got to hire session musicians to be the knights now instead. The reporter was seated in a metal chair, and her right arm hurt. Standing beside her, she noticed now, was Hilda Dannenberg. She's evil, by the way. The doctor was holding a hypo gun. Don't try to stand for a few minutes, she advised. I gave you an injection to revive you. That silly woman had her stun gun set far too high. You'd have been unconscious for a good day at least. How long? Asked Natalie, her voice slurred and not quite her own. Have I been out? Oh, not very long. Across the room, Natalie spotted Sidebar!
Yes!
He was laying immobile, flat on his back, and not functioning. Why'd you revive me so soon? I wanted to talk to you, explained the doctor. And so, does Mr. Pettiford.
Mr. Pettiford?
Yes, that would be our villain that for some reason refers to himself as One throughout the entire book.
God,
One would think that One does this, etc. And this is what passes for a personality trait.
There's also an annoying other reporter who I think does the same thing. So I just think maybe whoever ghost wrote this, I do know his name. I'm not going to talk about it. Eat me. Just really thinks that English people say one a lot.
Yeah, it's really irritating. But I think we're about done with games, and I feel like kind of felt a little more negative than I wanted to be there. So let's go ahead and roll out of this segment. We're going to come back and shed some more light on the wonder of this book before we roll into recommendations and stuff. So stay away from the tech, kids. Dare to say no.
Don't download that brain virus.
Exactly. Stay away from the buzz box, and we'll be back.
We'll be back to crash your wetware in just a minute.
Pure energy. Pure energy.
We are back. It's been a long TekWar discussion, and I think it's time to wrap it up. But we're going to roll into the way we close the show here normally is we recommend other things that we like. But I think the two of us have kind of come to the consensus here that the recommendation for this show should be TekWar, book number 3.
Yeah.
TekLab, because this is so enjoyably stupid. And I don't mean like, it's trite and cliche to compare things to like The Ring or The Room and stuff now. Not The Ring. That's a whole different story. And this isn't bad on that level, but it is so endearing and so clumsy and just kind of a very silly way that it's really hard not to love it. Now, here's the thing. Since William Shatner has been kind of evidencing himself... Since William Shatner has been kind of evincing himself as a jackass, maybe check it out from the library or buy it used so he doesn't get money for it. But read this book and enjoy it. That's my advice to you.
I'm basically down with that. Yeah, I endorse that. If PG-13 Mickey Spillane with plastic and floaty stuff and wisecracking robots sounds fun to you, then it will be fun to you.
Have you seen The Expanse? Have you read the Expanse novels? Do you wish everyone in them were about 30 years older and kind of slow and really into jazz and probably squash? No squash gets played in this book, but I'm sure space squash features heavily in the series at some point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's got to be some version of like, it's probably called Laz Pool, and it's played with like antimatter balls and lasers, but it is just pool.
Yeah.
Like, there has to be.
Pool I could see for sure.
Yeah.
Racquetball, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, space racquetball, though. But yeah, I just read this book. It's fun. I guarantee you can find it used at a paperback shop somewhere for like under $3 and you won't regret it. It is fucking hilarious. Read it.
And, you know, if you're worried about like, oh God, the only thing I can find is the 6th book, can I jump into this series and have an enjoyable time without understanding the backstory? I'm going to guess yes.
Yeah, I know nothing about this story up until the 3rd book, the one we read, and I still had a great time reading it because there's one thing this book is not short on. It's exposition. So I'm sure by the time you get to the 6th book, they're explaining the entire series up until that point. Maybe even like in a little dedicated previously on section like you're watching Lost.
I know nothing about the plot of the 3rd book, and I just finished reading it, and I had a pretty good time with it. So yeah, you'll not regret it. And if you do, well, life goes on.
And on that note, the world turns and we continue to get letters. Here's a song.
A, letter B, letter C, letter D, letter E, letter F, letter G, letter, got a lot of letters.
All right, the Segway doctors sometimes get correspondence in the mail.
It's true. Yeah, master TekWar lords.
Ooh, that's complicated.
It's a reach.
I'll make another Tech 9 joke instead. Something about down with the clowns. That's an assembly kit. Build it yourself.
I only like orange 9mm and 3. Oh, 3.
We have some letters, right?
Yes, we do. Cool. The first letter, I'm not actually going to read the letter. I'm just going to apologize because I get these on my phone, by and large, and I got this email, and all it loaded was the subject line and no body text the first time I read it, and I was actually angry at the letter writer.
Oh, no.
And I was bringing it up to make fun of them, and then this time it actually loaded. And it turns out it's a very long, very interesting, very thoughtful letter, which I'm not going to read. And I'm only going to read the subject line, which was from Jonathan, fake last name, and it goes like this. Hard-boiled fiction is good. Mickey Spillane is just an idiot. Read Ross MacDonald instead. So the first time I got this...
It's a forceful subject line.
That's a forceful subject line. And when the body of the email didn't load, I thought the following... Way to get the premise of the show.
Yeah.
But it turns out like, yeah, no, Jonathan, you're exactly right. The letter you write is bang on. We'll probably read it later. But I just had to explain the story of how I am too stupid to wait for the email to load on my phone.
People will sometimes make jokes kind of referencing things we've said on the show, and I'll think they're making fun of me, and then I'll get very mad and block them right away. So I understand completely. And then I'll realize like 3 days later, like, oh, that was something I said like a year and a half ago. They weren't actually calling me names.
Right. So anywho, thank you for that very, very thoughtful letter. We'll come back to it. But again, the point right now is I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the second of 3 letters from Brian, fake last name, and it goes like this. Anthony Scaramucci has written self-help books.
Oh, I bet he's about to write some other shit, too.
Yeah. Hi, new to the podcast, but really enjoying it. You've probably seen this, but apparently Trump's communications director... Oh, way to date yourself, bro.
Topical humor here on the Idiot Podcast.
But apparently Trump's communication director, The Mooch, has written multiple self-help books. Do with this information what you will. Jay, what do you intend to do with this information?
Probably nothing except for chuckle about it right now.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. That guy wears sunglasses everywhere, and he looks like one of the Mr. Smiths from The Matrix. Like, I know the bonitis guy is the popular comparison that everyone's making right now, but To me, he looks a lot more like a Mr. Smith.
I would pay $28 to hear the guy who did Agent Smith,
Hugo Weaving?
Hugo Weaving,
Yes.
in his full Agent Smith or Mr. Smith voice, read the more famous Scaramucci line.
This is something about Steve Bannon
I'm
performing
not-
acrobatic feats.
I'm not Steve Bannon. I'm not trying to suck my own cock, Mr. Smith. that was
be pretty
terrible,
good.
but it felt good while it was coming out.
See, it almost felt like Bane at times, which is even creepier. So, I'm not here to suck my own cock.
So I spent way too much time at rock shows and had horrible earaches as a kid. So like 80% of my eardrums are just scar tissue. So I can't hear shit anymore. My experience of watching the Bane movie was watching a guy in a fur coat go.
Yeah, it's like, why is Charlie Brown's teacher trying to destroy the world?
Like, this, as I am, so shall you be. As you listeners are, so I once was. You will turn into me, and I have turned into my dad. I come out of most movies like, I couldn't understand a word they were saying.
That's why Dunkirk was the perfect old guy movie, because it was loud in all the right ways that for people who are half deaf, like the two of us, which comes from many years, by the way, of standing next to cymbals. Don't do that without earplugs, dummies. If you're in a band, wear earplugs. Don't be an idiot.
Yeah.
I was an idiot. Now I can't hear shit.
Same.
The more you know.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom.
Also, there was no dialogue in Dunkirk, which was frankly refreshing.
It was, because I didn't have to try to make out what people were saying without turning on the subtitles like I do when I watch everything at home.
Yep.
I am old. Rolling on.
All right, last letter.
Yeah.
From Luke, fake last name. Just started listening, but I love the podcast.
Wait.
Where's this butt coming from?
Oh, man, what are you implying?
Okay.
I mean, I know it's kind of on a slow burn if you start from the beginning, so I can understand maybe being like, okay, I just started, but I still like it, even though it's kind of bad. But hey, by like episode 30-something, we're up there. We're doing our thing, so...
I just met you, but I'm listening to your podcast. Yeah.
Now, I'll just chalk that up to, a phrasing thing. I'm not going to take it personal. It's cool.
Okay. However, I'm surprised you don't have an episode on Aragon yet. You should do one. And the second I read this, I thought, I too am surprised we don't have an episode on Aragon
I don't
yet.
know what Aragon is.
I think it's a second tier, not third tier, Harry Potter dragony kind of knockoff.
Ooh.
I think it's about a teenage wizard who maybe makes out with a dragon.
Okay. Okay.
This may actually just be me describing the cover of my notebook that I've been doodling on in meetings. And by the way, I think I'm going to get fired soon.
And then Tracer from Overwatch is flying through space with Samus from Metroid, and they have their arms around each other, and there's little hearts. And then under that, there's Atreyu from A Neverending Story, and he's just hanging out there like, hey, what's up? I'm pretty cool too.
Well, if I can give listeners one piece of advice, it's don't show Jay your notebook because he will make fun of it in public.
It's true.
I worked really hard on that.
I'm a big fan of the puffy stickers, though. The arrangement's really nice.
Yeah, I don't understand why you didn't describe any of my Pac-Man characters.
Well, the problem is ever since I got the Pac-Man fever, when I see it, it just drives me crazy and out of my mind. So...
But yeah, Luke, as I think you can hear, you may have struck a chord.
Yeah. I am...
A bar chord.
Bar chord. I'm curious about Aragon because it sounds like something we could probably write a very good acoustic guitar song about, so...
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I guess that's about it. We want to thank you for listening to us. We want to thank all of our wonderful subscribers at Patreon, which is patreon.com, IDEOTV pod. You know why we don't talk about mattresses or boxes of clothing that we want to send to your house?
It is because Tom, Jonathan, Jack, Kathleen, Rich, Daniel, and Patrick are fucking awesome.
And in addition to them,
As
everybody
are
else,
everybody else
who donates at a lower level, we really appreciate it. Everybody who listens but doesn't donate, hey, that's cool too. I totally get it, and we appreciate it. But maybe take the time to turn some friends onto the show. Rate and review us on iTunes. It does help. One day we want to be on the front page next to all them heavy hitters, and the way that happens is when people say nice things about us there.
Yep.
And subscribe, for sure.
And I have to say, I saw a podcast that they're fine. You know? They seem like nice people. They're fine. I know for a fact not as many people listen to them as listen to us. I know for a fact people don't like them as much as they like us.
Oh, man.
And they were on the front page. Guys, we can do this. Let me screenshot this and justify my existence just for a minute.
Man.
I have so little.
Oh, no. So,
we
okay.
can do this, friends.
This is probably a better time than any to mention that the IDEO TV Pod Fun Time Party Pit.
What?
The Fun Time Party Pit.
The Fun Time Party Pit.
Which you can search for on Facebook. It's a group where people discuss things, especially on recent episodes. And I'm sure by the time that you hear this, there will be a thread trying to figure out what podcast Collision was just talking about. And we will never tell.
I won't ever tell.
I just hope it's not the new one LeVar Burton just put out, because, oh man, I love that show.
We just recorded an hour and a half not talking shit about William Shatner.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
There's any force on earth that can get me to talk shit about LeVar fucking Burton?
Yeah. Oh man, he's got a new show. Everybody out there, even though there are no other podcasts, if he had one,
please don't
you
listen
should
to
check
other
it out.
podcasts. But please support everything LeVar Burton does.
Yeah, for sure. If you can still order those Reading Rainbow mugs, I got one. I drink coffee out of it. I love that thing. Yeah, so email us, I don't even own a television at gmail.com. We're also on Twitter, IDEO TV Pod, Facebook, IDEO TV Pod, the aforementioned Party Pit, which you can search for on Facebook. I think 1,300 plus people and growing, and it's fun. Lately, there's been a lot of raucous discussion about Ready Player One.
Oh my God. And you know, it's 1,300 people strong, and there's literally only two assholes, and they can't kick us out because it's our fucking show.
And you're already listening to them, so fuck it. But yeah, join us there. Also, yeah, just write. Let us know.
Yeah, shoot us letters. We love every letter we get, even if we can't read them all. If you like the show, just bore the shit out of one of your friends who you think would like the show about how much they would like the show until they like the show.
And so remember, folks, when you encounter a scary sea creature, the answer is not a violent stab. It is to
ride the crab.
Ow!
Don't sweat the technique. Don't sweat the technique. Let's trace the hits and check the file. Let's see who bit the dissect the style.
Lasgun, Plasbricks, Holographic Simcast, Skycar, Vidphone, Plastiglass, Telec, Neostone, View Windows, Plasmug, Nearcaf, Nursebot, Plastray, Faxgram, Bellbot, Vidscreen, Neowood, Monitorbot, Sonoshower, Plasflowers, Pliochief, AirCirc, Skycab, Pedramp, Plyotowel, Vidfilm, Brainstem, Robophysical, Skyvan, Skycar, Neoleather, Voxbox, Bricks, Copbot, Thermocoat, Potsig.